So Superman coming out next week, and obviously there's been a ton of discussion out there on how the film will do. A lot of things, man. There's just like a lot of layers to this. Like, number one, how's the movie theater experience doing? Number two, how's the genre doing? It kind of feels like cape shit might be on the way out. It kind of feels like comic movies might not be the most poppin' thing anymore, right? And then there's a conversation about DC. This is the launch of an all-new universe at a weird time. What does this movie need to do in order to justify more of these movies, more of this universe? It's a really complicated issue. There's just like so much going on. Well, before we get into this new bit here, because there is new information, I think it's worth sort of TLDRing what has happened so far. When it comes to the box office, right? When it comes to the box office. So there were long-range box office projections from a website called Box Office Theory. And I've told you guys many times, it's not that they're terrible or trying to spread fake news, but they're not super accurate. They've been pretty off a lot. Now, they originally had the projection for Superman at something like 140 to 180. Like, kind of saying this thing could fucking smash. And I think that was just domestic, okay? And then we had, about a week later, the Hollywood trades, and I believe Deadline was front on this. Deadline ran a report that said it looked like it was more 90 million to 125 million. Do you guys remember that? Now, the reason that's important, that's worth mentioning, is in that Deadline article, okay, they're very explicit on how they got to that number, okay? So Box Office Theory is like 140 to 180. Then Deadline comes in and says, actually, it's looking more like 90 to 125. That's a massive downgrade. What they said in the Deadline article was they had spoken to actual distributors, okay? Box office projection, and including Box Office Theory, works off of data collected on social media, data that's shared via ticket sales, pre-ticket sales, and a lot of models. They build models, and they come up with these projections. They're wildly swingy, right? And I would say in the last year, maybe the last 2 years, they've been less accurate than ever, let's say it in a nice way. Like, they've been pretty off. Now, that is, of course, also because the industry's changing a lot and whatnot, but that is what it is. No, you're not going outside. You better relax. I'm in the middle of a goddamn segment, Luke. Come over here, Luke. Just chill. Come chill and talk about Superman, dog. Goddamn. Okay, so that's where it's at. The Deadline article said when we spoke to actual distributors, people that would actually sell the thing and see data that's maybe not available to the trackers, they massively downgraded how Superman would perform, okay? But that was kind of like a lone voice in the room. And other Hollywood trades, including the Hollywood Reporter, came out and actually said, no, we're sticking by our original thing of 140 to 180 or whatever, okay? So let's now read this new article. It says here, rumor, Superman ticket pre-sales have slowed as 100 million opening or less looks increasingly likely. What? While some estimates for Superman's opening have pointed to it opening as much as 200 million, it appears not even the Man of Steel will be able to shrug off apparent superhero fatigue. Oh no! Superman director James Gunn and his cast are currently touring the world to promote the first DC Studios movie, and it will pay off when the reboot opens in North America. But will it pay off when the reboot opens in North America next week? Tracking has been all over the place for this one. Through the trades, recently reported 125 to 145 million. That's the trades kind of taking it back from, which was a dip from the very early estimates of 185 to 200, right? So it's kind of like, since we've been long range to shorter range, it has done nothing but go down, which is kind of concerning, with as little as 90 million. With a rumored budget of 225, not including marketing, this would be a disastrous start for the DCU. Gunn has said he'd be fine with breaking even, but a blockbuster that barely turns a profit is hardly a win for a brand already running on fumes. Unfortunately, I agree with that. Unfortunately, I do. Talking on the Hot Mic podcast, Jeff Snyder revealed, I'm hearing Superman pre-sales are slowing down a bit. I have some sources saying this is looking at $100 million opening, if that. I have been bullish on this, saying this movie is going to do 160 to 175. I think that's what's becoming more realistic is 120 to 140. Okay, so important to take that into consideration. Let's break that down. Jeff is saying that he has industry sources that are telling him that the pre-sales have slowed down and that it's actually looking at like maybe 100 million. Okay, and I want to be clear here. Jeff is literally in the face of being told that, still upgrading it. He's still like, I don't really believe that. I actually think it's going to be at least 120 to 140. So and the reason I'm bringing that up is because as this article points out, brother, this shit has been all over the place. We just do not know. Okay? And it's been 180 to 200. Then it's 125 to 145. Then it's 90 to 125. Now Jeff has it at a swing of 120 to 140. Okay? So why is this happening? Okay, why is this happening? Well, there's a couple of different reasons why, but the most obvious answer is the industry is fucking completely changing and right in front of our face, and nobody's actually sure how to track consumer behavior and what happens. Walk-up business seems to be the bulk of business these days. It's really hard to predict. Repeat business, it's really hard to predict the legs on a film. It's just like really hard to predict any of this. And I think there's the industry is like kind of scrambling, trying to figure this out. Now, I do think there's a side of like from Warner Brothers' perspective, right? There's a side from Warner Brothers' perspective where they're trying to make it look as good as possible. And there's some people that work there, that's literally their job. And we've talked about this before because social proof absolutely matters. You want it to feel like everybody's going to see Superman. I mean, literally, if everybody was going to see Superman, a lot more people are probably going to be willing to go see it. If nobody's seeing it, everybody's just going to wait for streaming, dude. It's not a moment. It's not capturing the zeitgeist, right? And Superman has been weird because at times it feels like, oh my God, it's absolutely fucking crushing. Like everybody knows about this film. We've also looked at other data that kind of indicates that although everybody's aware of it, they're not necessarily activated by it. There was a stat we went over about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was ranking the film as far as your first choice of the summer season or of the movie season. This thing ranked weirdly low on first choice, like around the level of For the Dark World, okay? Which to me indicated, and I think to a lot of other people indicated, oh, everybody's aware of this movie, but the jury's out for a lot of folks, right? So like if there's a lot of positive buzz early, because obviously the fan screenings happen early next week, the embargo lifts relatively soon, right? If there's a lot of positivity, I think you could see the movie do very, very well. I think if it's middling to low, like I think if this thing gets in the 70s or like 60s, 70s in a Rotten Tomatoes score, I just don't think that's enough to activate people. I think you could very well be looking at a scenario where everybody's aware of it, everybody knows it's in theaters, but consumer behavior and fatigue have kind of caught up to Hollywood in a way that's going to manifest itself in like a really, really bad way, right? So, and here's the other thing. I do not think this thing is going to open to rave reviews. I'm just going to be honest with you. Considering a lot of the stuff we've heard about the screenings, considering that I think even now the release trailers and the release clips are dividing audiences, I think this thing's going to open pretty divided. I do not see this thing getting like a 90, and I could be totally wrong here. I could be totally wrong. I do not see this thing getting a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. I do not see this thing getting a huge audience score either. I'm going to be real. I think the audience score will obviously be more kind than maybe the critical score, but I don't think you're getting like, oh my God, this is the crazy. Nah, bro. I unfortunately think this is going to divide audiences, okay? So, look, best case scenario for the film, there's a whole bunch of walk-up business. There's a whole bunch of data out there that people can't seem to find, meaning like a lot of people sort of quietly committed to going to see Superman, and they haven't actually taken any action or spoken much about it on the internet. That's like best case scenario. I think if it comes out to like, if this thing comes out and people really talk about it like they did with Top Gun Maverick or like Barbie or Oppenheimer or something, like if it gets that kind of acclaim and becomes an experience, hell yeah, like this thing could soar, you know, and I still think 150 million domestic opening is possible, okay? But I do have to sort of say, I do have a doomsday scenario here, okay? And I was actually up last night. I actually did not play Warhammer last night. I know a lot of you think I did, and that's why I was late today. That's not what happened, okay? Had a little thing this morning, and the family thing. It's all good, though. But I was actually staying up. I was like, I couldn't sleep very well last night, and I was thinking a lot about this, right? Because, frankly, when I saw this headline, and look, the headline's a little baity. Like, even Jeff doesn't really think the thing's going to dip to 100, right? The headline's a little bit baity. But when I saw this headline, bro, I started to have a panic attack, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. Like, you guys know how I feel about Gunn, and I definitely want to get that $500 from Brandon Davis. But it is absolutely not good for me or for nerds if this movie does terribly. Like, let's just be real. Can we fucking admit that? I know some of you really badly want this movie to fail. I am not one of you. I do not want this movie to fail. That would be terrible. And unfortunately, I have to say, I could see a scenario here that's kind of like a doomsday scenario. You know what I mean? Like a doomsday scenario. And not like the movie Doomsday, but like this spells doom for the genre. Okay? And I need to explain this. So hear me out on this. It is possible that a Marvel or an MCU Superman might be the exactly worst possible thing for the genre at this time. Okay? And what I mean is, I think Marvel itself is largely responsible for fatiguing the audience and for kind of becoming a parody of itself. And a lot of its like go-to things are not clicking with people anymore. And in fact, I feel like they're having the opposite of reaction that they used to have, where people are cringing, people are like getting a little uncomfortable by this stuff. Like the Marvel formula has been beaten over our heads so much over the past few years that even people that love it, that might even make a living off of talking about it, are bothered by it. Okay? Well, what do we think will happen if the other superhero thing, the new superhero universe, is essentially all of the worst parts of the Marvel formula copy-pasted onto the DC universe? If Gunn truly made Guardians of the Galaxy Superman at a time when comic book movie fatigue and generally MCU fatigue is at an all-time high, you know, David had a comment the other night when he was promoting the film, and he said he thinks this will be a renaissance of the comic book movie genre. I got to tell you, I'm getting a little worried that it's the opposite of that. That this could actually be the death nail. Because I'm starting to get to a point where, like, dude, if this movie fucking bombs, and if it bombs, and if it doesn't just bomb, but it bombs in a way where everybody's like, oh, it's Marvel, Superman, they're all the same, fuck that. Oh my God, that'll fuck Fantastic Four. That will fuck the Fantastic Four movie. That will do literal damage to the entire genre. Okay? Now, I hope that's not what's happening here, man, but I'm starting to see a sort of perfect storm. And this was why, like, I never loved the idea of just doing Marvel Superman. You know what I mean? But I damn sure don't love it at a time when people are sick of Marvel. It was already a bad idea when Marvel was working. This could be really fucking bad, okay? So again, I'm not necessarily predicting that. I really hope that that's not what happens. But as I was lying awake in bed last night, I'm literally lying awake in bed thinking about, like, oh my God, we could actually be cooked. I have to pivot into Warhammer even faster because Superman might not even make $100 fucking million, and they made Guardians of the Galaxy Superman, and now everybody's just fucking over everything? Oh my God. Thanks for watching. And if you like this clip, smash a like on the actual video and subscribe to this channel. That way more of these clips get into your feed. I've also linked the full episode below if you want to check out the entire thing, including the Q&A we do with fans. You can also watch this show live. We do it live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And you can also find all of my content, including the videos I put on my main YouTube channel, on the podcast feed.